Hey YouTube, what's going on? In this video we're going to clean up the paint and detail the paint on this Cannondale 1995 Cannondale F600. I've seen several videos on YouTube doing paint restorations on their bikes and I don't necessarily agree with the way they do it. So I'm going to show you how I'm going to do it, and it pretty much follows the same as most automotive ways. But the first thing we should do, other than clean the bike, don't clean it with dishwash, like fairy liquid or dishwashing soap. Use some automotive paint car wash, because there's no salts in it, so it won't scratch your paint, because there's a good chance dishwashing soap is going to add additional scratches. What we're going to do, give it a clean, then I'm going to show you how I'm going to assess this paint and work out what kind of paint this bike has been painted with. A good way to do that, let me pop the camera down on a tripod, is have a look at the decals. So there's different types of paint on bikes. You can get 2-part and 1-part and with clear coats over the top. So what we're trying to assess is, does this paint have a clear coat on it? And a good way to do that is try to catch a decal and see if you can peel it up. Because if you have a high quality bike, in my mind, you should paint the bike, add the decals, lacquer over the top, or something along those lines. And on this Cannondale, there's no edge to any of these decals, so we have a multiple layer paint system, which is good because it will hopefully be able to eliminate a lot of the swirls in this paint. Stuff like that big scratch needs touching in or leaving or sorting out. But I'm going to show you how to assess what kind of scratches we can remove also. So let's move on to that stage next, shall we? Let me zoom out a bit. I've kind of got this weird angle here because the light's really bright here in my flat, and I can show you with some detail what we can do. So we've assessed that there's a clear coat on this frame, and as you can see there's lots of like micro scratches. Next step is really super simple. What you need is a microfiber and just some water on it, a little bit of damp water. And all we're going to do is assess if these scratches look like they disappear when the tube is wet. Now, to me, suddenly that tube looks quite a lot more, has a lot more luster and looks a lot nicer once it's moistened, which indicates to me there's lots of micro scratches in the clear coat that aren't through all the way down to the tubes or the actual colour coat in the paint. So we have room to definitely improve this luster on this frame. So hopefully you will agree that looked better than it did just a few moments ago. You see most of the swirls are gone and it looks a lot more shiny and clean. So this is kind of the finished effect we're going to go for, instead of that sort of swirly mess, which is what we want to do. Just moving up to this F600. One thing I have to be careful with, there's lots of like oxidization in areas which I don't want to break. So there won't be any machine polishing or anything like that. I think machine polishing is probably overkill for a frame. But before we move on, I just want to quickly show you some other areas. So we got some big scratches and chips here. Again with a damp cloth. I'll show you what our potential is. So as you can see, we can definitely improve the look of that area, but we're not going to get rid of these big scratches at all, but we can get rid of anything that's in the clear coat. So I think we have definite room for improvement on this bike.
So for the first round of this paint restoration, the product I'm going to use is Autoglym Super Resin Polish. The general strategy we're going to employ is to use the mildest polishing cutting compounds to eliminate the easy scratches, then work up using harder and harder polishes to eliminate the deep scratches. Now Super Resin Polish is an extremely mild polish. It's actually got a lot of fillers and other products inside it, so it's almost a one-stop shop. But yeah, it also is, as well as it polishes, it also fills in scratches, so it's a really good first step in the product. So Here you can see I've applied it. I'm just letting it haze off initially. I've gone a bit overboard there. It's a bit too much of a coating on the seat tube. But at this stage, let it haze off for a minute or two so it dries a little bit. Now, using a clean microfiber towel, it's time to buff off the polish. Ideally, you should move the towel around in little circles, but it's kind of hard on a tube shape, so I tend to either go up and down the tubes and use a sort of round and round type of motion. I find it's fairly effective. One of the key things I should mention here is have plenty of microfiber towels to hand to do this. I like to buy mine from B&Q in the UK. You can get like 5 for £2.50 and they're pretty good quality. So have plenty of microfiber towels and try not to cross-contaminate too much. So this is the result after one round of super resin polish. I think you can see it has increased the luster a lot, but you can still see a lot of scratches in the top tube there, which we still need to try to get out. However, when we move to the down tube, I think you can see there's a significant increase in the sort of condition of the tube, I think, personally. Obviously there's still some scratches in it, but I reckon it's definitely increased the shine on the tube. You can still make out some little scratches there, but on the down tube, maybe where people's feet have less likely kicked it or dragged across the top tube, the condition's way better. As you move to the purple, I think it's looking pretty good to me. So for the next stage, we're going to use this Meguires Scratch X 2.0, and instead of covering the whole bike and this stuff, we're going to focus our attention to a tube and areas at a time. So for this example, I'm just looking at this specific front part of the top tube really. As you can see, we're paying more focused attention to top tube. I'm applying the product in circular motions using just my finger in a microfiber cloth. We'll let the product haze off for a few moments and grab a clean microfiber cloth and buff the product off, and hopefully the tube scratches will start to disappear. So this is what the top tube looks like after one round of using the Scratch X 2.0. Obviously you can still see a ton of scratches in it, so we're going to repeat the process over and over again. I won't bore you with that many more time lapses, but 3 rounds later this is what we have. There's still scratches in it. It looks much better though in my opinion, and not only that, there's less of a sort of pinky haze to the tube. It's definitely bright red now. Once you've got the paint finished to an adequate quality you're happy with, it's time to protect it. I'm going to be using this Meguires Gold Class wax as the first stage of protection. Now with the waxes, it's very important to realise less is more. Multiple thin coats is way better than one really thick coat for sure. It performs so much better. And not only that, it's much easier to remove once you apply it, because it really cakes and bakes itself onto the frame if you're not careful. Again, apply the stuff using a clean microfiber towel and buff it off using a second, different clean microfiber towel. One thing I really like about this time lapse is you can kind of actually see the luster of the frame increase with the application of the wax, which I think is pretty neat really. So it started good and went dull with the wax application, and yeah, definitely increased each time. So this is the result after 3 layers of wax. In my opinion, it looks so much better. There's loads of luster and gloss to the tubes now compared to where it was, and the purple was just outrageous. I love this metallic purple at the back of the bike. I think it's absolutely fantastic. It's such a cool colour, and that combined with that sort of Guards red or Dodge Viper red is exceptional. I think it looks really good overall. I'm really happy with the way it turned out after these 3 coats of wax. The top tube still looks a bit patinaed between the chips, the scratches and all the sort of corrosion underneath going on the paint, but it's something I can live with for sure. And final thing, I think I've figured out the touch-up colour looking at the website vintagecannondale.com, so the deep scratches I might be able to touch up in the red. The final product we're going to use to protect the paint is this turtlewax hybrid solution ceramic spray coating. I actually don't rate this very well for car use. I actually prefer the Meguires version, it's much easier to apply. But this works brilliant for bikes, and it makes a real nice hydrophobic coating that kind of repels dirt in the future. Also, the application methodology suits bikes better, because with the Meguires one, you need to spray it on and wash it off under pressure to sort of activate it, whereas this one is just spray on and buff off, which is much simpler.
So it's 1 week later, very similar weather conditions. It's early morning here and the sun's beaming from my window, but I think you can see from this video here that the luster on the paint is greatly increased, especially on this red, and the amount of like these small scratches in the down tube have definitely improved following the detailing treatment. Obviously there's still some in it. I can't quite get everything out without potentially wearing through this Cannondale sticker. Like down here you can see some quite deep ones that are through the clear coat. There's not much I can do about those, but generally the overall luster of the bike is greatly improved. I think you would agree.
So that's it for this one. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you can use this guide to help yourself increase the luster and brilliance of your paintwork on your bike. It's all pretty mild and nothing too intrusive, so there's very little chance you're going to do any damage, and hopefully have a good time making your bikes look better if you follow this guide. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.